All right, so here we are. I don't know whose podcast this is necessarily, but we're here with MattDoesFitness, and I don't know if this is like mainly your channel. If you want to do like an intro or something,
I'll do one before we do. That's fine. I'll do like, what I do is when I'm done. I'll just quickly do like 10 seconds on my camera explaining what's going on.
All right.
So you record? Is this? Do I need to record this Zoom? Like, is this?
No, I can send it to you right after I have it going. Okay. So it's getting everything right now.
Okay, sick. Right, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Gallery. Okay, perfect. Okay, so obviously you mentioned in your video you wanted to be elaborately drug tested thoroughly as frequently as possible in order to prove your natural status, and you've been, one of the most heavily criticized people in the industry, for having a crazy physique that people don't believe could be achieved naturally and whatnot.
Biggest fake Natty.
Yeah.
Gotta be up there. Top 3, I'm saying, at least.
Probably. So as far as proving it and whatnot, like you mentioned how the bodybuilding thing, you wouldn't even enter the competition after all if they were not essentially agreeing to test you rigorously to a point that would prove the status, right?
Yeah, like it's hard, right? So firstly, I don't want to look like I'm discrediting, like I don't want bodybuilders to be like, fuck this guy, he's like, belittling the sport of bodybuilding, right? So I'll be honest, and I've always said this, like I don't really, like I used to be a powerlifter. Competing as a powerlifter is mad, like it's so fun, it's super exciting, I loved it. For me personally, competing as a bodybuilder, that wouldn't be the same for me. I wouldn't, like I guess it will be a nice objective endpoint, but in terms of the actual experience for me, if I think about it, I'm not excited by that, right? And also, like, I find it like, I don't know, it stresses me out that it's quite subjective, right? Powerlifting is super black and white. Bodybuilding is obviously far more subjective, and there's ultimately someone can say he's beaten you, and it's very hard to measure that in an objective sense, right? So for that reason alone, really, I find it, I don't really get excited by it. Plus, like, I'm acutely aware of how horrendous it is to diet to the point you would need to diet, right? Like, I'm relatively lean now. That's nothing like getting like stayed shredded, right? And I don't think I could even do that. And even if I could, it would just ruin my life. I've got like 2 kids, like we're doing stuff that I don't want to just be a horrible person that, do you know what I mean? I don't think it isn't anywhere near enough. Like, what am I going to get out of that? It's no like, oh, I look shredded for a few days. That's nowhere near. That doesn't justify the means anywhere near. So for me, by far my biggest motivation for saying, oh, I'll do a natural show was that, I guess, in hindsight, rather naively, I thought it would be like, oh, I've done a natural show, so now it's clear I'm natural, right? Obviously, it turns out from the fallout from that video, everyone's been saying it doesn't prove anything. All it proves is that you're natural on that day. And even that, they're saying, oh, maybe it wouldn't even prove that because the test wouldn't be rigorous enough. You could have been taking stuff and come off like a month or a few weeks or a week or whatever beforehand. So with that in mind, like if I go and compete in a natural bodybuilding show and kill myself to do it, and then it doesn't change the fact that people think I'm not natural, like I've literally just wasted my time and I had a detrimental effect on my life for no gain. So yeah, it still would be nice. It would be a cool series. I think people would enjoy watching me do that. Like, and I guess for me, it would be a nice goal to try and get super lean and do that. But if I'm not going to be tested, if I'm going to be tested once on a competition, and even that, I think some people say they only test the winner. So if I didn't win the show, I don't even get tested. It would literally be a complete waste of my life. So I don't know. Like I'm now definitely leaning more towards like I just want to orchestrate some kind of testing, super rigorous testing protocol that can show as far as possible that not only am I natural now, but I've always been natural. That's my goal. That's by far my biggest goal now.
Okay, so yeah, that I would be happy to tell it. Like, as far as Bloodwork goes, I'm sure there are a lot of labs in the UK that you can just walk in, pay for your own lab work and get it done as frequently as you need to. Only thing is, like, that in itself is like, you'd be willing to go in and get blood drawn out of a vein once a week if you needed to? Like, you wouldn't care about that?
The other thing with that, so 2 things. Firstly, yeah, if it means like traveling, whatever, a 4-hour round trip once a week, like, that's going to be hard. Even if I was up for doing it, like, if we go away every 6 weeks or whatever, then how do I do it then? Then everyone says, oh, you didn't do it for 2 weeks, so that means you're probably taking drugs at that point. But also, even if I did that, like, I feel like, would people say, oh, that's not even your blood? Like, how would I even prove it's literally my blood, right? Like, how do I do that?
Well, for
I can film it,
for
but like, I don't know, like, is that even enough? Like,
well, I would be highly doubtful that an official, like you'd have to put a lot of work into doing that in terms of if you filmed yourself walking into the clinic, getting the blood drawn out of your physical arm, and then a lab is not allowed to doctor test results, obviously. So that would be you going out of your way to Photoshop your friends' like lab results like every single week for however many months. Like, I feel like there has to be a point where people are going to think, how far is this guy going to go to kind of manipulate things? And you have to give him like sort of more of a benefit of the doubt, the more further you go with it. You know what I mean?
If on that, right, on going to a lab, like, let's say I can find a lab, there'll be labs in London, there'll be numerous ones, right, which is like, I can get to London in like an hour, so that's definitely possible. Like, I could do, for sure, minimum I could do that once a month. I can make sure I'm there once a month to do that, right? Obviously, I know the more the better, every week would be better, right? Like, what if, because I know that there's companies, I've done them before for like testosterone checks and other health checks, they'll send you a thing, you take blood and you send it back. If I was to do like, let's say I did one in a lab every whatever, and then in between that did ones where they send me, where I send the blood, so I can do it from my home, so it's more convenient and it's more realistic. If you saw those, like, if you saw the results from those different samples, would you be able to say, oh, that's the same blood because it's got the same markers and whatever? Like, would you be able to prove it's not, or say reasonably that it isn't, I haven't just got someone else's blood?
Yeah, I think you would have to do like a lot of no jump cut videos of you like receiving the self at home lab test, you pricking your finger, you depositing the blood into the thing, you going to the mailbox and like physically putting it in there. And the lab can't use somebody else's name and information for like, your blood, obviously. So at that point, it's kind of like how much fuckery could be going on here in terms of somebody literally, as long as there's no jump cuts or like fancy edits, people can't really argue against it at that point, I would think. And as long as you get reasonable testing done, like unfortunately those self at home ones, you can only get very few things done.
Oh, so that would
But you could get enough done, I would think, that you could get like a realistic breakdown of the likelihood is low that you're manipulating things at this point. Like if you had you physically taking a video start to finish and mailing it, and then that lab, I'm sure these labs would confirm that the sample like belongs to you too, because like, I don't know about you, but I've talked to these, the self at home things, they go back and forth with you over email. I'm sure they would be happy to do like for some promotion or something to like, do a confirmation of like, this is they're not going to lie to the fucking public about
but like, do you think you like, I don't know how many like metrics you get, but if I go to a legit lab and you see it there and you know that's my blood and you've seen the baseline, whatever, and then a week later I do one from home, if you saw those two results, would you be looking at it and say, oh, that's Matt's blood, or you don't know that from those, that isn't enough to determine it's definitely my blood kind of thing?
Well, whatever company is facilitating the blood draw, it would be like it's not like I can look at a blood test and be like, that's definitely, I can see if it's like a guy or a girl based on what I'm looking at, but I can't tell it's like definitely yours without like genetic analysis done. But I don't think anyone's gonna think that far into it. Like personally, if I saw you physically walk into a lab, get your blood drawn, get the results are correlated with the lab spits out a report that has your name on it and it's like official, and somebody could corroborate that at the company that provided it, like how much further could you have gone? Like paid off the lab guy or something? Like that's like next level.
You say that people, do you know what I mean? There will be people that would do that. Even this alone, even like if you just analyze like someone that's adamant I'm on drugs now, if you look at how many times I've spoken about it and done things about it, I'd have to be an absolute like fucking psychopath to be on drugs now. Do you know what I mean? Like to have weave the most bizarre, convoluted series of lies and like life events. It would be I would be an absolute serial killer to be able to do that. Do you know what I mean? So even that alone for me is just like obvious. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I'm aware that even whatever length I go to, some people are going to say stuff, but I would be happy, like, if you essentially, right, if you believe me, if you were like, do you know what, it's pretty clear that he's natural, that would be enough for me, I'd be happy with that, because you're never going to, obviously, I'm never going to satisfy everyone. There's going to be some creepy little weirdos that still say that. But
no. Even when we did the Lex Little thing, and I believe he's natural, and I did a pretty I got my own clinic to test him because I have a HRT clinic and we facilitate blood draws all the time. We got him to film him going in, getting the blood taken out, and all that stuff. And this was like overnight notice. It's not like he could have facilitated paying off the lab rep, trying to swap blood or whatever. And I broke down in my video why I think he's natural, and I interpreted the lab test results. And there's still people in the comment section that are like, oh, Derek helped them cheat the test or whatever. And it's like, at that point, I think the majority of people are on the same page as me though, because I don't know anyone who knows how to interpret this shit properly anyway. So a lot of them are just deferring to me. Yeah. So one thing I would like to check
to be honest, that's kind of like that's my like main reasoning. Like obviously you're very knowledgeable, but also in fact probably almost all of the people that are accusing me of being on drugs would probably be your audience, right? So I feel like you'd be
I don't know, maybe.
But do you know what I mean? Well, at the very least would be familiar with your content. So like you would be a good person to, this is what I was saying before, is that I've been speaking to some of the natural feds in the UK and they're saying, oh, we can facilitate a test, but like, I think if it's just some generic doctor that comes back and says, oh yeah, look, Matt's natural, I think people are gonna be dubious about that. Whereas if you say it, then people won't. People will believe that because you're obviously more, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? You're these people's friggin' idol,
Sure. So one thing is, so notably, the WNBF commented on that video I made about you and Thurston and kind of basically outlined how they're bulletproof and whatever. So they think they can do a pretty good job. I haven't dug into their actual parameters yet until we kind of nail down what we'd be doing here. But if they're willing to, like this could be good promotion for them, obviously. So this is like a no-brainer for them to rent. If they were willing to spend an extra, $1,000 over the span of however, multiple weeks of subsequent testing, even if we compensated them for it, like the ad revenue from the views itself would be able to pay them to do it. If you self-funded them to do it, it would be great promotion for them. It would pay for itself in the views, and it would just be like an overall great thing. So I can't imagine they wouldn't help facilitate randomly subjecting you to urine testing at least, I don't know, like once. I don't know how frequent. I'd have to,
That's
reach
the
out
thing.
to them
Like
and ask.
I've spoken to them and another fed, and the impression I got is that it wouldn't be that frequent. And like I want it to be frequent.
But that's under the impression that we're not paying for it. Like, what if we fund it?
Yeah. That's the other thing. I'm thinking there's a couple of companies that I've done stuff with in the past. Again, like blood stuff. It might be possible that they could send someone to my house. Like, imagine if I could orchestrate that. Someone comes to my house every week or every 2 weeks and does it. That's a legit person. I can film that, and because they're coming to me, I can do it as fucking every week. That's not a problem. I can do that. That would be cool,
so that's what I'm thinking is we facilitate somehow compensating them accordingly. So not only do they
pay for it. Like I said, I'm completely happy to pay for the whole thing. Like that's for me, that's completely worth it. I'd be happy to do that. It's not a problem.
Yeah, and this is like, that in itself, like facilitating the urine testing, I don't know how much they'd be willing to do blood, but even if they weren't able to do the stuff that I think needs to be added to their bulletproof testing to make it bulletproof, I'll see. I'm still working it out as far as my clinic working internationally. Right now, we're like, if you were domestic in the States, this would be a lot easier because I could just send you to a LabCorp. I could just send you a message and be like, you have 48 hours to go to a LabCorp and like get a blood draw. Like that would be,
This is weird. I can't send blood over there, right? Can I just send?
No. I don't think so anyway. I would have to double check, but I don't think so. Okay. But so I'm gonna see if there's some way I can coordinate facilitating like not like a drop ship, but it's like outsourcing it to a lab in the UK that then, gives the results, kicks it back to us in the States sort of thing. And then that way I can sort of mesh, as long as you pass the WNBF urine analysis, and I'm sure they do the full WADA, Anti-Doping Association, like standard, panel that they do for a lot of the associations, which is pretty, most people are doing it thoroughly. Some of these natural bodybuilding shows are doing like really shitty versions of it, but the fact that they're like willing to go out of their way to comment on my stuff and be like, we're very confident in our procedures and whatnot, I'm assuming they're like somewhat familiar with what I've talked about, hopefully, to a point that their urine analysis is comprehensive. Yeah. So I'll check that to double.
The guy I spoke to from the WNBF, he's been voice noting me on Instagram. I think he does the test himself. He's one of the testers. He's been doing it for like 6-7 years. So he was very confident in his like ability to do that and to make it legit. Like I said, I didn't get the impression it was going to be super thorough. Like I want it to be. Obviously, there's no point me doing one test every 3 months because that doesn't prove anything. But like you said, if I say, look, I'll pay for it, then maybe that would change it.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we can. I can't imagine we wouldn't be able to coordinate that. And then people are going to say, oh, like if you paying for it, you know, how's it random? Then if you're paying for it, this would be organized.
Yeah.
In the agreement with the thing. It would be something where it's almost like, have you ever heard of VADA? And people like fund their own drug testing in like, you know, sports in the States. Basically, it's like a federation that it's funded where you're then subject to extremely scrutinous testing for 8 to 16 weeks prior, like a boxing match or something.
Yeah.
That it would sort of be like that, where you're funding like a specified block of time, and then I would be adding in my own blood work to then like corroborate their findings and have like a comprehensive breakdown of not only did you pass these, but then hopefully at the same time concurrently you would be doing YouTube videos where if you can maintain like a semblance of your performance metrics, it would be pretty much impossible to rule out that if you tried to come off of shit, but you somehow maintain your lifts or like, you know, close to that for 12 weeks or something, it would be pretty much impossible for people to say you're, you know.
That's exactly my plan, right? So what would be, again, this might be idealistic, but my plan is to have something, however long it would need to be, like, so however long it would, if you stop taking drugs, right, the length of time it would take for that to leave your system and you to stop getting the benefits. So like, for example, with me, let's say I'm taking drugs now, right, I stop taking drugs, how long would it take for my physique to deteriorate and me to start looking like a piece of shit? You know, how long would that be?
Yeah. Well, the thing is